Let's keep it moving at 1 o'clock, 465, 466. Tennessee and Baltimore, Ryan Tannehill versus Lamar Jackson. Last time we saw Baltimore taking a loss in the rain up in New England, and also with Tennessee getting a little bit extra rest, but they got bludgeoned at home by the Indianapolis Colts on Thursday Night Football. This game opens up with 65% of the tickets coming in on the Tennessee Titans, and that line opened up at 6.5. We saw a nice line movement downshifting to 5 and 5.5 across the board as a slight favorite here for the Baltimore Ravens. Over under this one opened up at 48.5. That has risen 1 full point to 49.5. Look like we're going to get some good weather conditions down there in the Charm City, and I do think we get some points. Key indicators here: 2 huge defensive linemen are probably going to miss this football game for the Baltimore Ravens, and that's going to play right into King Henry being able to run the football and opening up their passing game for the Tennessee Titans. But I have to say, I like the fact that Baltimore lost last week. I like the fact that they didn't hit their normal 24, 20-plus points in that game because the rain just didn't allow them to do it. I do think Baltimore scores points in this game, but I have to tell you, I agree with the line movement going from 6.5 to 5.5. I think Tennessee's going to be live in this game because their offensive line and their running game can now lean on that Baltimore defense, which is something you never thought anybody would say over the past 2 to 3 years, because usually they bully your running game. Also, keep in mind that Tennessee has had some pretty good success in big spots against Lamar Jackson over the past couple of years. I think Baltimore does win this game. I think it's closer than that number, but I do think we get scoring. I like the over 49.5 in this game. I think both of these teams get into the 20s, one team pushing closer to that 30 number to push it over.
Yeah, I like Tennessee a lot. I think they're one of the livest dogs, if not the livest dog on the slate. Look, with no Nick Williams and no Calais Campbell, or Brandon Williams, excuse me, we saw what New England did. They ran the ball down their throat, and Baltimore couldn't stop it. Then they had to bring everyone up in the box, which it took them way too long to do in that game to get done. The problem is, you do that against Tennessee, which you're going to need to do is stop Derrick Henry without those 2 defensive tackles. You're going to get beat over the top. This is not Cam Newton throwing to Jacoby Myers and N'Keal Harry. Tannehill is a legit quarterback with legit weapons, and Corey Davis and Adam Humphries, A.J. Brown. Adam Humphries probably won't play, and Jonnu Smith outside. I think Tennessee's the better football team. Now, I do not like the Tennessee defense. They cannot get after the quarterback. They have a terrible pass rush. But the thing is, against Lamar Jackson, are you really trying to have a dominant pass rush and basically playing into his strength where he rolls out and makes things happen with his legs? They're just by default, by being a crappy pass rush, they're going to be in those running lanes for Lamar Jackson. You kind of saw that last year, too, in the playoff game. And Baltimore struggles when they are going to, if they're going to have to rely on Lamar Jackson to throw them back into this game, and it won't shock me if Tennessee gets up early in this game, especially if they get the ball first. I think Derrick Henry runs it right down their throat. Baltimore cannot play from behind. So if you're betting Baltimore, you better hope they have a lead, because if they're down by 7 to 10 points going into that second half, is going to be a long day for you, and you may as well turn that TV off because they're not making that comeback. I like Tennessee. I think Tennessee wins this game outright. It's actually one of my favorite picks of the week and my favorite underdog of the week. Give me the Titans.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'm waiting on here, because again, like team totals come down to certain numbers, and that, I see the lowest at some of these New Jersey sports books here, 26.5 as a team total for Baltimore. I'm waiting on those 26s if they appear. So everybody out there in the chat box who does love Tennessee, do me a favor and plow Tennessee tonight so we can drop that down like 4.5, which would slide that team total down slightly under. I'm a buyer on the Baltimore offense, and it's wait, how can you watch this offense? It's just what they do. Take out the situation, right? Let's take a look on the season for the Baltimore Ravens here, right? Open up the season, Kyle, versus Cleveland, 38 points. Go play Houston, 33 points. They lose to Kansas City, and they were bad in that game, but still ended up putting up 20 points. Washington, 31 points. Cincinnati, 27. Philadelphia, 30. Pittsburgh, probably the best defense in the NFL, 24 points. And if you watch that game, stunted in the red zone a few times and even fumbled in the red zone. Then you move across to a top 3 defense, Indianapolis, 24 points. They only scored 17 points versus New England because it was a rainy, ridiculous night. Now you get them back into some nice weather conditions. They're going to put up 24-plus points in this game, which means Tennessee is going to have to, obviously, score into the high 20s. I think we get points in this game, but I'm also waiting to get that Baltimore Ravens price. You always want to buy teams when they're down, because what's the prognosis? What? Lamar stinks. They can't do anything. Look at their points per game and what they do, then put them into some nicer weather against a defense that's not as good as the Steelers or the Colts. They'll be able to move the football in there. And yes, even that Lamar can't throw for over 10 yards. It doesn't matter. They score 24 regardless. It just doesn't matter in these spots. So keep an eye out for that game. But I love to buy low in a team when people say Baltimore stinks, Baltimore stinks, Baltimore stinks. You know what's nice about Baltimore? Every time they cross the 50, it's an automatic 3 points because they have the best kicker who has ever lived in the NFL. We'll see what happens in that game as we move forward. Let's get to the 4 o'clock games on Sunday. Just a few moments here, we'll be joined by Kelsey Kramer to go over some Pick Six contest picks, which last week, Kyle, 4-2 for me. How did you go this week, by the way?
I went 3-3 again. I got burned by a couple of teams, of course, your Eagles, but I am sitting there right around the 100th, like a 111th, about 8 games or 7 games over 500. So we're doing pretty good there. But yeah, another 3-3 week. But I did get some luck as well. Thank you to that Hail Mary putting me over the 56 in that Cardinals-Bills game. So I got bad luck and some good luck, so I'll take it. 3-3. Time for a 6-0 week this week.
Yep, and if you missed any of the picks there for a Week 11 picks, and look, this is how, we're not the stars of the show anymore, because if you see just below where me and Kyle are talking, there is a link below. It doesn't go to me or Kyle, actually. It goes to Kelsey Kramer's Week 11 picks there in this Pick Six contest. So if you guys still want to get in it, click that link right there. It'll show her picture up. You can get in the contest. You can't win obviously the end of the year prize if you've already missed 10 weeks of football, but get into the weekly picks here, pick up some cash, and have some fun with it. And again, I did go 4-2. Kyle did go 3-3. So let's all remember that and make sure at the end of the week here. Let's keep moving here. As I said, get to the 4 o'clock games.